Welcome back to the Flying with the Fly podcast, the best place to get all of your Eagles and other NFL related news. I'm your host, Matt. And ladies and gentlemen, we are less than a month out from the NFL draft. And so, with that time a year coming up, you guys would expect me to put out a mock draft. But like last year, you guys know that I only do one mock draft per year. I'm not like one of these guys who are going to milk it and do like 2.0, 3.0, 3.5 I've seen out there. So ultimately, that's going to be coming in the next Saturday, maybe the Saturday after that. But it will be coming soon, just not today. Today, we're doing something a little bit more interesting, something that I haven't done on this channel yet. That being, I'm going to give you the regular news, some of the bigger stories I think that is out there, some of the moves that the Eagles have made, and then we're going to turn our sights onto a tier list, two tier lists to be exact. One about the top NFL teams, way too early NFL team rankings going into this upcoming season, how I think each team will fare, especially after free agency. And then I will also go over the top. Well, I'll give you guys my top quarterbacks, and then that'll go through all starting quarterbacks as well. But before we jump into it, if you all could leave a like and subscribe down below, that would be much appreciated. I do apologize for no upload this past Saturday. I got caught up in some things, and ultimately just did not find the time to get that done. So, you all get a Wednesday episode back. Obviously, this Saturday, there won't be an episode. The following Saturday is probably when there'll be an episode. But just keep an ear out for that. And remember, follow me on our forms of social media like X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Follow me there so you can get updates like that, because I was able to update you guys on that site as soon as I knew that I was not going to be able to pull it off. And so if you all are missing out on that, then you guys might be guessing on when the uploads will be coming out. So let's jump into some of the news that we have here. I have two bigger news stories before we jump into what the Eagles have been up to in free agency still, or just the offseason in general. Let's take a look here. The Chiefs have made some smaller moves over the past week or so in free agency. First off, they traded for quarterback Justin Fields. I mean, Fields got overpaid in New York with the Jets after an okay season with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so he looked really bad this past season, especially as the Jets struggled and looked like arguably one of the worst teams that I've seen in a long time, since probably the 0-16 Cleveland Browns. And so, with that being said, it's kind of hard to imagine that he was able to earn like a 3-year, $20 million guaranteed contract. But quarterback contracts tend to be inflated from what they should be. Maybe this is a good chance for Justin Fields to learn in an Andy Reid style offense, and hopefully Andy Reid can put Fields back on the trajectory that it seemed like he was having leaving Chicago. And that was, although he was like a middle first round pick, he still looked like one of the more successful guys out of his draft. Obviously, I believe that was the 2021 NFL draft, if I'm not mistaken. And so it's been quite a few years. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence was the best guy in that draft. He went number one overall for a reason. Mac Jones has continued to stay up there when he gets a shot, especially in a Kyle Shanahan system with the 49ers. And so Justin Fields, I feel like, at the end of the day, did get the short end of the stick, being stuck in Chicago. Had a chance to make something of himself in Pittsburgh, just didn't earn the overall starting job, and then ultimately failed in New York. But it seems also with this move that the Chiefs are not 100% sure that Mahomes will be fully ready to go for the first week of the 2026 NFL season. Now, whether or not this is fully the case, I don't know. But that's what this move tells me. It's A, they're not sure that he's going to be ready in time for the season. And B, they just want some insurance with a backup that actually has some starting experience and does not have a history of getting injured. Obviously, they had Gardner Minshew this past offseason. They lost him in free agency. And so it would be nice to bring in a guy that also has more experience as a starter in the NFL and could start at the beginning of the season if Mahomes is not fully ready. The Chiefs also re-signed Travis Kelce to a 3-year, $55 million deal, which is kind of misleading because there's a little catch here. The first year of his deal is only $12 million guaranteed. Or no, I think it's less than that. It might be $11 million guaranteed with up to $1 million in incentives. And so after that, the other $40 million is only guaranteed after June of 2027 if Kelce is still on the roster. This essentially guarantees that Kelce will be off of the roster come June of next year, which ultimately makes this a 1-year deal for Kelce and the Chiefs. This suggests that Kelce could be playing his last year of NFL football and or just playing his last season as a Kansas City Chief. To me, if there's any time to retire, it would be right after the season coming up, because he spent 14 years in the NFL. He's getting married to, I don't even have to say her name. He's getting married. And so to me, this would be the prime opportunity to ride off into the sunset if he could. He had a little bit better of a season last season, though a lot of people were calling it a resurgence. Yeah, resurgence my ass. It was only like 800 receiving yards and like 5 receiving touchdowns, which if you know anything about Travis Kelce and an Andy Reid offense and what Patrick Mahomes can do, that's not that much for a primary receiver. And so since Super Bowl 58, he's kind of taken a hard nosedive off of his production. And it's kind of showed in his frustration off of the field as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how his body's able to hold up and whether he can keep it together mentally and emotionally coming into this last season to make a run to the Super Bowl. Next up, we have the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks made an interesting move that I did not personally see coming, and that's the Seahawks and wide receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba reached a contract extension after the wide receiver had the most dominant season of his career and one of the best wide receivers seasons last season. He had some of the best numbers in the league, and he was on a trajectory to break unbreakable stats out there. He initially was on a trajectory to break Calvin Johnson's or Megatron's single season receiving record. I believe at one point he was also on pace to break the single season receiving touchdown record, but obviously that kind of cooled off real early in the season. And so he's earned it. He's definitely earned it. I haven't even mentioned the contract details. It's a 4-year, $168.6 million contract extension with $120 million guaranteed. This keeps him under contract with the Seahawks through the 2031 season. That's weird to me having to even say is 2030. But it is coming up, and you're going to see more contracts in the next, probably offseason. I would say in the 2027 offseason, you will see more contracts extend through the 2030 season. And this money to me is just insane for a wide receiver to make. That's like, hold on, I got to do quick math in my head. I'm not great at that. over 4 seasons. I'm not even doing that. I'm just going to use a calculator because at the end of the day, if there's any kids listening, which I hope that there's not, but if there's any kids listening, you just got to get through school and get the math done, and then just use a calculator when you get older. That's $30 million a year once that contract extension kicks in. I don't want to say that's going to end up being a ball and chain holding down the Seahawks from going out and signing big free agents, but we would have to see how it's structured, whether the money is guaranteed up front or in the back. I would say most likely over the last 2 seasons of that contract extension that the money would be the highest, but we're going to have to wait and see. And it also makes the wide receiver market skyrocket money-wise. I mean, guys like the first guy that's popping into my head right now is George Pickens, who is still looking to make a deal with Dallas. Obviously, he's on a franchise tag, but ultimately, guys like George Pickens, who had an amazing season last season, was to me one of the only wide receivers that could arguably rival Jackson Smith and Jigba, is now going to be looking for a lot of money. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, depending on his character, that's up for you to decide. But we're going to see a lot of deals with wide receivers start to skyrocket. Whether they deserve it or not, that's a better question. Kind of like a Christian Kirk deal that he had with the Jaguars back, Jesus Christ, I don't even know how long, back in 2022. I think that was 2022. And so, yeah, they way overpaid kind of a middle-of-the-road wide receiver. And so, to me, it's definitely interesting to see this market start to spur back up once again. All right, next up, we're going to move over to the Eagles side of things. Let's see. Did we talk about... Let me talk about it anyway. The Eagles signed or re-signed Dallas Goedert to a 1-year deal. Yeah, I don't think we've talked about this. So that would ultimately save them $20 million in cap. How much was the deal? Oh, come on. Why isn't it here? I have a whole entire spreadsheet of the deals being made by different NFL teams. And I'm trying to figure out Dallas Goedert deal. Okay, it's a 1-year contract extension worth $7 million guaranteed. Ultimately, it's good to have a guy like Dallas Goedert come back, especially in the system that Sean Mannion runs, which heavily relies on a versatile tight end game there. He has to be good receiving, and he has to be good blocking as well. Bringing in a guy like Dallas Goedert alongside of re-signing Grant Calcaterra and Johnny Munt, which I do believe we talked about both of those guys the previous episode, brings a solid tight end group. I would still like if they drafted a guy in the 3rd or 4th round, maybe a guy like Max Clare or an Eli Stower or a Carson Delp. I think it's Delp. Is it Oscar Delp? Oscar Delp. Wow, I was way off with that. Yeah, Oscar Delp. A lot of guys that play in big programs, either Vanderbilt, Ohio State, or Georgia, respectively, and could learn behind Dallas Goedert in his last season as an Eagle, and could fit in right alongside of Johnny Munt, who could take over the main part of the tight end blocking role. So we'll have to wait and see. I do like this deal. Obviously, everybody's talked about the Dallas Goedert, and everybody's moved on. But to me, Dallas Goedert is a solid guy to bring back and saves us $20 million in cap space moving forward. Next up is Hollywood Brown, or Marquise Hollywood Brown to be exact. He signed to a 1-year deal up to $6.5 million in the deal itself, and he's a solid wide receiver 3. We also signed another wide receiver who's not on here. Oh, no, he's on here. We'll talk about him in a sec. And he's a solid veteran piece to bring in alongside Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown for this upcoming season. And so, to me, Hollywood Brown here is going to fit in Philly. He already went on a podcast after his signing and raved about Jalen Hurts and his ability to pass the ball. So he's already buying into the idea that, yeah, Jalen Hurts is this elite guy that people are going to start to come around to elevate their own game. And to me, Hollywood Brown is going to fit in perfectly with the scheme, being a wide receiver 3, and ultimately probably getting a decent amount of targets with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith obviously being the top targets for Jalen Hurts in the Sean Mannion system. But don't sleep on Hollywood Brown getting a decent amount of targets coming up this upcoming season. And he's played with Patrick Mahomes, he's played with Kyler Murray, he's played with Lamar Jackson, and he's never raved about any of those quarterbacks quite like he's raved about Jalen Hurts. The Eagles also signed wide receiver Elijah Moore, who was previously on the Bills. He's an older. He's not older. He's only 25 years of age, but he has 5 years of experience. So he is a veteran in the sense that he has the years of experience underneath his belt. Looking at his career stats, the best season he had was with the Cleveland Browns. He had 640 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. And his rookie year, again, was also the second best. Obviously, he got there late to the game in Buffalo. He only played 9 games. He had 9 receptions and 112 receiving yards in those games. He was kind of out there doing some cardio. But to me, Elijah Moore, quietly good pickup to flesh out this receiving room. It really does bring a question of whether Darius Cooper and Johnny Wilson are both going to make the roster coming up. I know guys like Ainias Smith, who has been a fringe guy, is most likely not going to make it because of how many wide receivers we have that have experience. And so, to me, Elijah Moore, solid pickup. Not questionable, but smart. The Eagles also picked up another tight end, that being tight end previously from the New York Jets, Stone Smart. Smart with 2 T's. He's 27 years of age. He has 4 years of experience underneath his belt. And looking at his stats, looking at his career stats here, his best season was with the Chargers. In 2024, he had 16 receptions for 208 receiving yards, but he's been an amazing blocking tight end, which has been quite a theme that we've seen in this free agency, is the Eagles going out getting a Johnny Munt who can block like nobody's business as a tight end. A guy like Stone Smart who's put guys like Abdul Carter flat on his back during certain games. And so I do feel like they're beefing up this tight end group, especially blocking-wise, in case we do get some down offensive linemen throughout the season. And so to me, smart move. Whether Stone Smart makes the roster, he's definitely a fringe guy, especially if we draft a guy. Him and Grant Calcaterra are ultimately battling probably for the last spot if we don't draft a guy. They re-signed Fred Johnson. I've been a big supporter of Fred Johnson. If you listened to me last season, I raved about bringing back or trading back for Fred Johnson. He's been an amazing depth piece here in Philadelphia. He's had to fill in quite a few times when Lane Johnson has gone down. When Jordan Mailata's out for maybe a drive or two, he's stepped up, and he's ultimately locked down. To me, he could have gotten a deal to be a starting offensive tackle in the league, but the fact that he keeps coming back tells me about the kind of character he is, and also what Howie Roseman sees in him. He's an amazing depth piece that can go out and start on a worse team, but behind a guy like Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata, he's willing to sit back and take action when it is time for him to do so. And so Fred Johnson signed to a 1-year deal. Same with Elijah Moore and Stone Smart, if I didn't mention any of them. So those guys were some of the pickups that we got. We also got, I'm going to butcher this name, Arnold Emenabike, signed to a 1-year, $7.3 million deal with up to $4.3 million guaranteed. Ebikadi, Ebikadiki. Wow, this is going to take me quite a while to figure out here, guys. I do apologize. But he was one of the better depth pieces at the O-line, coming off the edge as an off-the-ball linebacker down in Atlanta this past season. And with a season that had two stud younger defensive edge rushers, being able to shine in that kind of system is something special. He was a Penn State alum, and he's already gone after people slandering the Eagles before he was even an Eagle, and guys like Jalen Hurts. So I can't wait to see what he can do here. He's going to be an amazing depth piece behind guys like Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt. I'd be interested to see where he falls in the depth chart, whether he's going to be getting a lot of reps, but he has the talent to do so. So we'll have to wait and see, but he has the talent to do so. And one of the more important re-signs that we also did was punter Braden Mann. We re-signed him to a 4-year deal, and he was amazing the past couple of years that we've had him. I believe that was like 3 seasons. To have him come back for another 4 is going to shore up that special teams, especially in a time where kicker is going to be the question going into next offseason. There are 2 more moves that we made that I kind of need to talk about. That would be acquiring quarterback Andy Dalton in a trade with the Carolina Panthers with an exchange of a 2020 7th round pick. Andy Dalton, known as the Red Rifle, has seen it plenty of times starting with teams like obviously the Bengals, Chicago, Dallas, in Carolina. And so I think this brings in a solid veteran guy who has reportedly always makes a locker room better with him being around it. And I just feel like having a guy like Andy Dalton and having a guy like Jalen Hurts being around each other is a recipe for success in the quarterback room, no matter who the quarterback's coach is. And so to me, Andy Dalton is an amazing backup. Tanner McKee is still on the roster. We lost Sam Howell, and so this is a solid pickup for the Eagles. And it also signals to me unless we get rid of Tanner McKee, we're not going to be drafting a quarterback in any form of late round this upcoming draft. Lastly, we have running back Dameon Pierce signing a 1-year deal with the team. He's an interesting kind of guy. He had the starting role 2 seasons ago in Houston. 2 years ago in Houston, he had the starting role, and he was actually still the backup. It was 4 years ago. He had 939 rushing yards with 4 touchdowns on the season. And then the following season, he had 416 rushing yards with 2 touchdowns. And then it just continued to get smaller and smaller, with the Texans cutting him last season and him getting picked up by the Chiefs for 1 game. And so Dameon Pierce is coming into a loaded running back room with Saquon Barkley, Tank Bigsby, Will Shipley. And so it's going to be rough to see whether Will Shipley or Dameon Pierce come out on top for the last running back spot. I don't think the Eagles would keep 4 running backs, but I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Will Shipley gets put on the practice squad in case any injury comes up. And so Dameon Pierce, similar to Tank Bigsby, is an angry runner. And so that's interesting that the Eagles have gone out and gotten 2 angry runners to put behind Saquon, more that swift, swift elusive back kind of style. And so Dameon Pierce, solid pickup. I like them down in Houston. I'd be interested to see what kind of noise he's able to make during training camp this upcoming July and August, while the Eagles kind of figure out their depth as a team. Okay, so that's going to be it for all the news that I have. That's a lot more news than I thought they were going to have, but the Eagles took up like a solid 10 minutes anyway on their own. So here's what we're going to do. We have the tier list here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you what team I'm working with first, and then what position I'm putting them in. And then, what position I'm putting them in. I'll tell you what the options are. And at the end of the video, as I'm doing the outro, I will run pictures of the 2 tier lists so you guys can see what the ultimate result is. Got it? Okay, sounds good. Right now, we're going to start off with the NFL teams tier list. And so the tiers go. At the top tier, we have Super Bowl favorites. After that, we have Super Bowl contenders. After that, we have playoff teams. Then potential wild cards. Missing playoff teams. Mediocre at best. Young but intriguing. And number 1 overall pick contention. So let's jump right into it. The first person I have is the New Orleans Saints. And the Saints, to me, being in the division that they are, and seeing what Tyler Shuck did last season, and knowing what Kellen Moore can do, are a potential wildcard team to me. Jesus. Excuse me. Ultimately, I feel like, although this is going to be rough, it's either going to be potential wildcard or missing playoff team. I'm going to lean towards potential wildcard team. They lost quite a few veteran pieces, but I know under Kellen Moore that they can reload the offense and kind of just fix up the defense, patch it up a little bit, and bring in some rookies with high upside to pair alongside some of the veterans that are still left on the defensive line and linebacker core of the Saints. The Saints will ultimately be contending for that number 1 overall spot. Number 1 overall spot in their division this upcoming season, with it being probably a race between, if I had to assume, the Panthers and the Buccaneers again. So do not count the Saints out. To me, they are a potential wildcard team. If they can get to 9-8 or 10-7, I could certainly see them making the playoffs as a wildcard team. Next up, we have the Miami Dolphins. And to me, they are number 1 pick contention. Yes, they have Malik Willis, and Malik Willis has shown a possibility of being improving teams around him with that kind of playmaker style that he has. And also bring in a guy like Jeff Hafley as head coach. They are probably going to be focusing on how to improve the defense, first off, while allowing Malik Willis to develop. But I would not be surprised if they are in contention for the number 1 overall pick or a top 5 pick moving forward. They've gotten rid of a lot of their pieces, and half of their salary cap are going to guys that are not on their team anymore. Tyreek Hill, Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Waddle. So that is a major problem. They're not going to be able to bring in pieces to plug some of those holes that some of these guys leave behind. So to me, the Dolphins are going to be stuck in the number 1 pick contention. The Baltimore Ravens, they are an interesting squad. To me, they are a potential... No, they're a playoff team. The Ravens have proven season in and season out that they can contend for the AFC North, no matter how they start off a season or how they end a season. But to me, I can't have them as Super Bowl contenders until Lamar Jackson takes that next step forward and can stay healthy an entire season. Once I can see that, and once I can see the dynamic playmaker that I've been promised that he is, then we might be able to have a conversation of having them as Super Bowl contenders. Next up, sticking in the same division, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the Bengals, to me, are a potential wildcard team, in the sense that every time that we tout that Joe Burrow and this defense and the Bengals are going to get their stuff together, they ultimately fall apart. Yes, they've had some runs in the past, but we're starting to get 2, 3, maybe even 4 years removed from some of these. Oh no, sorry. We're going to be 5 years removed from their previous Super Bowl appearance this upcoming season. And so to me, the Bengals have done a lot right on defense. Surprisingly, they've went out and signed a lot of free agents to add some depth to this defense. Whether that's able to hold, that's a better question. But they also need to bring in guys for this offensive line that can help Joe Burrow kind of stand straight up in the pocket and not be sacked every other snap. And so to me, the Bengals, if they can get their offensive line woes together, and this defense actually shapes up to what it could possibly be, I like the chances that the Bengals could be a wild card team this upcoming season. Next up, we have the Denver Broncos, and to me, the Broncos are a Super Bowl favorite. Here's why. They were arguably one injury away from beating the Patriots in the AFC Championship game this past season. The AFC is still going to be semi-weak. It's not going to be as strong as it was in the early 2020s. I feel like that's starting to shift back over to the NFC in these late 2020s. But the Broncos, again, are the favorite for their division, and to me should be the favorite for their for the conference as a whole because of that defense that they have, headlined by Patrick Surtain II. But if they can get Bo Nix and keep him fully healthy, and they brought in Jalen Waddle, they brought in some pieces for Bo Nix. Let's see if he can go out and really elevate a team and not have the team struggle around him. All right, I would like to see Bo Nix be one of the better quarterbacks, especially at least in the AFC this upcoming season. And I would certainly like to see him ultimately be in the running for MVP. If they do that, then I think the Broncos are the Super Bowl favorite. But as of right now, I'm going to have them as one of the Super Bowl favorites, unless I see what I like out of Bo Nix. Next up, we have the New York Giants. The Giants, now under Hardball, I could see as a potential wild card team. They have put together a solid team, stealing a lot of Ravens players because of that pipeline to Hardball himself. And so, to me, New York could be a potential wild card team. Their division, the bottom two teams in Dallas and Washington, could be fairly weak this upcoming season again, and so they could get maybe sweep one of them and split the series with another, and that already puts them up 3-1. Obviously, they're going to be swept by the Eagles, which is going to make them 3-3, but I do feel like they have a prime chance if they can use these early years of Jackson Dart and Cam Skattebo, who is an absolute asshole if you listen to him. If they can use these young guys to elevate themselves to the next level while relying on this solid defensive line, they could probably make a push to a wild card spot. Next up, we have the Minnesota Vikings, and they're going to be a mediocre at best team. I don't know what Kyler Murray is fully capable of, in my opinion. I feel like, ultimately, I think the Vikings are going to have a quarterback controversy, which we'll talk more about when I go to rank the quarterbacks. But to me, they're mediocre at best. They have a lot of cap issues going into this next season and next offseason. And so there's not a lot of room for them to pick up free agents. They have to nail these upcoming drafts to kind of fill out this offensive line a little bit more, to give whoever's playing quarterback a little bit more time in the pocket. And so to me, the Vikings, mediocre at best, kind of like their offensive line. Until they can fix that, maybe they can move up a rung. Next up, we have the Los Angeles Rams, and to me, with Matthew Stafford playing as he is, they should be Super Bowl favorites. I feel like Matthew Stafford is going to continue to play at this high level until he takes a nosedive. And once Rams that happens, they might be shit out of luck. Obviously, they have Puka and Devontae Adams, Kyron Williams, Tyler Higbee, I think is still their tight end. Tell me if I'm wrong down in the comments, but I think Matthew Stafford overall, if he plays another MVP caliber season, with how wishy-washy this NFC, the top few teams are this past season and this offseason with who they've lost, I think there's a solid chance that the Rams could have a shot at making the Super Bowl this upcoming season. Next up, we have the Buccaneers. They're going to go a playoff team. I think Todd Bowles can get this defense around, although they've lost guys like Levante David, who retired, and Mike Evans, both cornerstones of their respective units and of the Buccaneers franchise over the past decade. I think Baker Mayfield, Emeka Mbuka, and Chris Godwin, and who's the running back? Bucky Irving, can get it together, and they can ultimately start to generate something on offense. It was their offense that fell flat last season. Remember, their head coach is a defensive-minded head coach, but it's their offense that fell flat. So if they can start to regenerate some of this offensive production that they had early in the season and stay healthy, I think the Buccaneers are a solid playoff team this upcoming season. Next up, we have the Lions. And I'm torn between the Lions, but to me, I'm going to put the Lions in, it's either Super Bowl contenders or playoff teams. I'm going to put them in playoff teams. I think they just lost too many pieces during free agency. And to me, they didn't bring in too many pieces either. So unless they have a solid plan for the draft, I certainly don't see them taking a step further than they did last season. Now, do I see them going 9-8? No. They're probably going to go like 10-7, but they need to draft some pieces that are going to come out and automatically produce for them. Until I see that, then I'm not going to be fully sure whether their window has fully closed or not. But as of right now, as long as you have Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Penei Sewell, Aiden Hutchinson, and Dan Campbell, you guys are going to be at least a playoff caliber team, if not a potential wildcard team. Next up, we have the Chicago Bears. Now, the Bears, I'm also torn between that. I'm going to put them as a Super Bowl contender. I don't think they're a Super Bowl favorite. I want to see that defense kind of be more locked down. They let up a lot of points in this postseason and a lot of situations where Caleb Williams had to come back. And although that does work for some quarterbacks, it does not work for all. So I would rather see them put Caleb Williams in an advantageous position rather than have him have to come back every single playoff game. So until I see this defense be stepped up, because they lost some pieces like Tremaine Edmonds and Jaquan Brisker, until I see how they reload some of these bigger pieces, I'm going to keep them in a Super Bowl contender tier. Next up, we have the 49ers, and I'm going to put the 49ers as a playoff team. Obviously, they were very injured this past season. Bringing in a guy like, they lost wide receivers, and bringing in a guy like Mike Evans helps. I would like to see if they bring in another receiving threat besides Mike Evans, and obviously they have Ricky Pearsall. George Kittle's injured, and Christian McCaffrey is going to find a way to get injured at some point. But to me, I think a playoff team slot is perfect for the 49ers. If they can stay healthy, maybe they're a Super Bowl contender. But as of right now, I can't really put them too much higher because of what they lost in free agency and what they kind of gained in free agency as well. Next up, we have the Super Bowl. We have the Eagles. I'm going to put them, obviously I'm biased, but I think they're going to be Super Bowl favorites this upcoming season. They're able to reload a lot of what they lost and bring on some offensive pieces as well. It wasn't that they were missing players or pieces. It was that their offensive coordinator was essentially a football terrorist and destroyed the Eagles team. I think the Eagles come back under a new Sean Mannion system and explode. I think that they go 14-3, and I think they dominate the league moving forward, with only dropping a couple games to other Super Bowl favorites as well. But I think they're like at the top of the tier of the Super Bowl favorites, and I think a solid matchup here a little bit early would be Eagles Broncos in the Super Bowl. Next up, we have the Raiders, and I'm going to put them down at young but intriguing. I think the Raiders have an interesting situation. They brought in a lot of younger pieces that are looking to get their first deals, and that's good. They paid a lot of guys to help come in and either help the situation around Fernando Mendoza, who they're taking number 1 overall. I will continue to say it. They brought in a lot of pieces to help around him, and they brought in some coaches to help develop him. I like the Raiders, what they've been doing this past offseason. I just need to see it on the field first before I can fully rank them. So that's why I'm sticking them with young but intriguing. Next up, we got the Green Bay Packers, and realistically, where am I going to put the Packers? Right now, to be safe, I'm going to put the Packers in potential wild cards. I think the Packers have a solid chance at making the playoffs next season. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I don't know what to expect from them. They lost a lot of pieces, and it didn't feel like they gained much, which is a major problem with them. Nobody's stepping up in the wide receiver room as the number 1 wide receiver. Nobody's stepping up on the defense, and they lost their best player on defense, that being Quay Walker. And so to me, they need to draft guys that can actually step up and be cornerstones of the franchise if they want to have a solid shot at making the Super Bowl. But until then, I think they're going to be below the dreaded Chicago Bears and Detroit Lions until they can start putting together some solid units on offense and defense. But I could be wrong. We're going to have to wait and see, though. Next up, we have the Commanders, and I have them missing the playoffs. A lot of people are like, but Jaden Daniels is going to be healthy. Why would you say that when we have a healthy Jaden Daniels? And we don't know. Yes, it was a lucky season that Jaden Daniels had his rookie season, but we don't know whether he's going to be back at the full health that he was back in his rookie season again. We're assuming. He literally was playing with a brace on. So it is slightly concerning to me that they're relying on a guy that is as skinny as he is and could get injured pretty quickly. Ultimately, I think the Commanders could have a decent season, but they didn't make too many big moves. Who did they bring in? Hold on, I have the page up here. Yeah, they brought back a lot of depth pieces, but they didn't bring in like a superstar that's going to set the world on fire. And so to me, they're kind of at the same spot they were this past season, excuse me. So I have the Commanders missing the playoffs, and ultimately, I'm just not wowed by what they've been able to do. The Cardinals, I have the Cardinals as the number one overall pick contention. I think that they're setting themselves up for disaster. Whoever's good on their team is aging and aging quick, and whoever's bad on their team is young and very inexperienced. So they have found some of the worst equations that you can have to build a football team. And so, to me, the Cardinals will be in for the number one pick contention, battling probably three teams. You'll see who my third is coming up here, but the Dolphins and the Cardinals are going to be battling for that number one pick. The Cardinals will most likely be looking for their quarterback of the future, which they have not had. I'm going to say ever. I mean, you could say Kurt Warner, but he really wasn't a quarterback of the future. He was just a stopgap at the time. But we'll have to wait and see. The Cardinals just are the worst built football team that I've seen in a while. Next up, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, and to me, the Steelers are going to miss the playoffs. They are a missing playoff team to me. Ultimately, I just don't think that they've done enough. I mean, yeah, they brought in a guy like Michael Pittman, which is good, but really, is Michael Pittman supposed to be the dynamic playmaker that we need to elevate our team as a whole? But we still don't know whether Aaron Rodgers is coming back. If Aaron Rodgers comes back, maybe I might bump them up to a potential wild card team. But as of right now, I'm going to keep them down at missing the playoffs, and we're just going to have to wait and see how they're able to shake things up under new head coach Mike McCarthy. The Buffalo Bills, I'm going to have them as Super Bowl contenders until Josh Allen can prove to the world that he can break past the AFC in the playoffs. I just don't think I can put him as a Super Bowl favorite this upcoming season. I could be very wrong. Josh Allen is the kind of guy that would go out there and prove all the haters wrong the following season. But he continues to struggle in the playoffs. I want to see what he can do under new head coach Joe Brady, and whether this offense is really going to take a step forward or how they're going to revamp the pass catching room as a whole. Next up, we got the Falcons, and I have the Falcons as mediocre at best alongside the Vikings. I think the Falcons are kind of stuck in limbo because they don't really have a quarterback. They signed Tua Tagovailoa, and they have Michael Penix on the roster as well, who's rehabbing from an injury. And so if they had a quarterback, maybe they might be a rung or two higher. But I just don't believe in either of those two guys. One's way too injured, and the other is, Tua Tagovailoa. And so to me, the Falcons are just missing, just mediocre at best. Seahawks, I'm going to have them as Super Bowl contenders. They lost quite a few important pieces around their team, and seeing what that did to the Eagles this last offseason, I think that the Seahawks will be contending for the Super Bowl. Don't get me wrong. They're above teams like the Ravens, Buccaneers, Lions, and 49ers, but they're not quite at that upper echelon that the Eagles, Broncos, and the Rams will be this upcoming season. Hopefully they can fill some of those needs in the draft, but at picking at 32, I don't think that's very likely to get one of the top players in the draft. Next up, we have the Patriots, and I have them at potential wildcard team. But, Matt, they made the playoffs. I mean, they made the Super Bowl. Why would you have them as a potential wildcard team? Have you looked at their offensive line the entire time during the playoffs? And Drake May just didn't show up during the playoffs. I'm sorry. With a team like the Bills, who are going to be reinvigorated, seeing their division rival in the Super Bowl, I think that they're going to struggle, and they're going to play a harder schedule than they did last season. Only like one or two teams that they played last season retained their head coach. And so to me, that kind of just shows how weak they're... and most of the teams that they played had a top 10 pick in this draft. And so that kind of just shows to me that the Patriots played easy teams and are going to get eaten alive when they've played actual playoff contending teams. Next up, we have the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are young but intriguing. They have a lot of young pieces that I would like to see develop, and I can't really put them at mediocre. I was debating whether I'd put them at mediocre, but I'm going to keep them here in young but intriguing with the idea of Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel being on the roster. And then bring in, I think they brought in a wide receiver. Hold on. Cleveland. Bring me to Cleveland. They re-upped a lot of their offensive line. They re-upped a lot of the defense. They brought in a new head coach in Todd Monken, who should be able to revitalize this Browns offense. So, to me, the Browns right now are young but intriguing. We're going to have to wait and see. They're not quite number one pick contention, but they're not quite mediocre quite yet. Next up, we have the Texans, and somebody has to win that division, so I'm going to put the Texans as a playoff team. C.J. Stroud has yet to miss the playoffs in his career, and so we're going to have to wait and see how he's able to elevate his game. This is a make-or-break season, though, for him. If he is not able to kind of bounce back from the past 2 seasons that he's had, he could be dealing with rumors of being traded this upcoming offseason. But we're going to have to wait and see. I'm going to put the Texans, never mind, changing up my mind, putting them at potential wild card. Yeah, that just feels more suited. I don't like them next to guys like the Ravens, Buccaneers, Lions, or 49ers. But we're going to have to wait and see. So putting the Texans at potential wild card. Chiefs, I think a healthy Chiefs should be a Super Bowl contender. I don't think they're going to be the Super Bowl favorite, especially in their own division with guys like the Broncos there. But I do feel like the Chiefs will be Super Bowl contenders as long as Patrick Mahomes comes back and is fully healthy. Next up, we have the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas... Well, Dak Prescott, they're always going to be a potential wild card team. Yikes. I'll put them at potential wild card, but that's probably the most I'm going to put at potential wild card there. They are literally on the edge of teetering either into potential wild card or missing the playoffs. Actually, screw it. They're missing the playoffs. Dallas, to me, just has not done enough, and they've lost more pieces than they've gained, and they're still like a couple $100,000 in under the cap. So, to me, the Cowgirls are going to miss the playoffs because they have not done enough to keep up with their own division. The Los Angeles Chargers, they are certainly a playoff team. Whether they're able to put it together, that's a better question. Justin Herbert has been proven to be underwhelming on the big stage every single time that he gets into the playoffs. So to me, a team like the Chargers could easily be a playoff team, but they're not going to be anywhere close to a Super Bowl contender. Next up, we have the New York Jets, who are going to be number one pick contention. I think they are the worst team in the NFL this past season, and the fact that they did not get the number one overall pick is very interesting to me. But to me, the New York Jets will be in the number one pick contention alongside the Dolphins and Cardinals this upcoming season, and I believe they will win it. So we're going to have to wait and see how their team shapes out, but they fired almost all their coaching staff this past offseason. So we're going to have to wait and see, but I just don't like anything going on with the Jets right now. The Panthers, I'm going to put them in missing playoff team. I think that the last season was kind of a fluke, and they're going to revert back to their previous Carolina days. And so we're going to have to wait and see how the Panthers do within their own division, first off, whether they're able to contend with the Buccaneers and the Saints, who I have ahead of them. But right now, I think that the Panthers are a missing playoff team because they had just not proven to be consistent enough to me to make it back to the playoffs. Next up, we have the Titans, young but intriguing. I think that if somebody like Cam Ward develops the same way that Caleb Williams did last offseason, I think that they're going to be set, or last season, sorry. I think they're going to be set at the quarterback position for another decade. And if they can just build up their team around him, like they've did with a lot of the coaches, I think that they're going to be in a solid spot and possibly even contending for first place in their own division. Next up, we have the Jaguars. And the Jaguars, to me, are going to be Super Bowl contenders. And here's why. To me, the Jaguars were one of the better teams coming into the playoff last year. Obviously, they lost to the Bills in the wild card round. But that's because their offense kind of fell flat. If they're able to put things together, and if Trevor Lawrence is able to prove that he's worth a big deal, like he goes out there and gets into like one of the top MVP spots in the voting, then I think that they could be Super Bowl favorites. But as of right now, I'm safe to say, looking at this defense and how they've lost guys like Gavin Newsom, I think that or is it Greg Newsom? Shit, I might have just said a political figure. Uh-oh. Let's hope that doesn't bring up anything. Let's see. Greg Newsom. Yikes, I just said the California governor. Yikes. Anyway. See the fun that we have here on this podcast, especially once we get to the end of the episode. To me, a team like... Where are they? The Jaguars are a Super Bowl contender. They're certainly not a favorite, but because of the AFC, they have guys like Mahomes, Allen, and teams like the Broncos. But we're going to have to wait and see whether Trevor Lawrence can play up to what he's promised in the past. And lastly, we're going to have the Indianapolis Colts in at missing playoff team. I think that their division is going to take a step up with the Titans being more competitive, the Texans being trying to bounce back, and the Jaguars being dominant. I think the Colts are going to be like middle of the road, but I think they're going to be better than mediocre, and they're going to still miss the playoffs this upcoming season. All right, so that's it for this episode of the podcast. I believe that the thing should be going now, the picture of the tier list. Unfortunately, we're not going to have enough time to get to the quarterback rankings. That I will save for next episode, and that one will be ranked. I will give you my top 32 NFL quarterbacks, and I'll give you my top 5 as well, which number 1 might not be who you're thinking it is. So that's all I'll say. So that's going to be it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of format. I hope you guys enjoyed this little bit different style of giving you guys a tier list that you guys can watch and look over. I do hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. And please stay tuned for any other updates when it comes to the podcast. Oh, and one last thing. Remember, go Birds.